He can wait.
He can wait. All right. Awesome. Thank you guys so much for agreeing to do this. This is great. So my students are fairly new to the Lord of the Rings. They know the story, but reading the book has been a little difficult for them. They know the movies, they know like what the Council of Elrond is from the film, but this is an entirely new project that I'm sure that they I don't think they've even heard of the BBC production before. So um, I'm really glad that you guys did this at the Prancing Pony podcast mood because this is a really cool project. And one of the things I tell them to do is to come up with their own response to the book in their own creative way. I give them a creative project. I give them free reign. They can do whatever they want. And this is kind of like their creative. What you guys did was kind of like their creative project. You took a moment from the story and you made it and you adapted it in a creative way. So can you guys tell us a little bit more about how it got started and how you got other people involved and what was your concept overall to get this awesome project started? Chad, you want to go first?
You basically started it, right?
Well, first of all, we should get Jordan to say about what he had done in the past because Jordan just asked me, what's the next thing we're going to do? So get him to.
Right, yeah. So I have a podcast called Music of Middle Earth that I do these kind of soundscape versions of sections of the book, right?
Right.
So that had been going probably for a year or so at that point, I think. And then, yeah, I'd asked Chad which one I should do next. And he said the Council of Elrond. And then that kind of blew up into this insane, huge project. So then we had to hunt down some people, right?
Right. So when you say soundscape, like what is it? What are some of the things you do in your podcast? Like, do you focus specifically on Howard Shore's music, or do you look at more sound quality topics that branch into, say, the BBC radio production or things like that?
So the main podcast is exploring each theme, each musical theme from Howard Shore's music. But every 5 episodes or so, I have a soundscapes episode, which is where I take just a small section of the book and add my own music and my own sound effects and everything like that to it to kind of bring it to life. And in the second half of those episodes, I usually break down how a sound effect was built for the movies.
Nice.
So how they made the Balrog, or how they made, all these different, it's mostly monster sounds, because those are ones that are cool to explore, but
for sure.
But yeah, so that's what I do in those
episodes. So kind of like say like in Monty Python, how the coconuts make the horse clip clapping. That is so cool. Yeah. So Chad, how did you get the cast together? Like where did you find all of these people to contribute to this project?
Okay, so at first, when he first asked which one can we do, let's do a big one, I thought Council of Elrond is great because it's basically a meeting, mm-hmm. and there are at least 15 people in this meeting. 12 of them speak, and of the 12, 4 of them quote another 10 to 12. I can't remember exactly what it is anymore. But he said to try to keep it a secret. So I'm also a member of the Houston Tolkien Society, mm-hmm. the Friends of Mr. Underhill. And so we have a Facebook group, which is just those people. So I knew that I could get those people to do it. And I said, don't tell anybody. So we're going to have this meeting of the people who were we're going to have this meeting made. It's going to be the people who were at the meeting, and no one else needs to know because we're going to surprise everyone by making this thing. And actually came up with that on October the 25th of 2020. And for who doesn't know this, the Council of Elrond meeting in the book was October 25th. 2018. So
they discovered that until way later, eh?
Yeah, we figured that out when we were getting ready for the presentation. I was backing up to look and see when we started. I'm like, oh my goodness, I asked about that on October 25th. So
coincidence? I think not.
Yeah. So basically, Jordan uses me as the subject matter expert on the Tolkien stories. I know this.
Right.
I know Tolkien stories pretty well, and so I asked those guys in the local Smile, the Tolkien Society groups are called Smiles. The Smiles.
Right.
A Smile is one of those Hobbit houses.
Right. Yeah.
So I told them, hey, we need to get a few of y'all, and so the people who said they wanted the parts, I needed 12, and the 13th one was my son. He said, I want in. And I was like, it's too late. And so and my son's just a little bit older than your students. He's 15. And so anyway, we planned this out. I took the chapter, arranged it into what looks like a play, like whenever you're looking at Shakespeare and stuff like that, and name of the person. And then everything that described a sound or some movement or something, I took that out and gave that to Jordan and said, this is going to be real sound. It's not going to be someone describing the sound. Right. And then we got going on that, and we finished that part way faster than we thought it would be. And Jordan's like, you think that you could get the people that they were quoting? You think you'd get more actors for that? I'm like, yeah, we can do that, but I don't think it'd be able to be a secret then. So then all those 12 people that they were quoting, I, those guys, and we decided to do it in the Phantom of the Opera style. What I call is where you fade in you fade out the quoter as you fade in the quotee.
Right.
And the person who's really saying, they're imitating. It's like my saying, Miss Cedeno said, and then we fade you in and we hear your voice going. So,
right. You're overlapping the two voices so that the person they're quoting, you start hearing their voice on top of my narrating.
Exactly. And it doesn't confuse, it sounds more confusing to explain what you're doing than to actually hear. When you hear it, it's obvious what's going on.
Yeah.
So he even puts a little bit of an ethereal sound to it where it sounds kind of echoey, where you can tell you're hearing the past here. Okay. And so we got those guys and we did that with everybody. So then what I did, the way we got all the lines done after I made the script and I sent it to, I got the cast members ready. Then the first thing I did, so Jordan could start working on all of his special effects and his music, is I recorded. I just got my phone out, hit record, and I read the entire chapter. Mostly because I know how to pronounce everything correctly. And very few people do. So I read it all and then sent it to him and to all the actors. And I said, Jordan's going to start making his music and his special effects based off of this recording. But everyone else, y'all listen to the recording to understand how to say your lines, how to say the weird words that nobody knows, like imladris. A lot of people say that wrong. So
Gilgalad.
Yeah. So it's funny because I have such a redneck voice, but whenever I go into pronounce Tolkien words, it's perfect. So,
of course.
Yeah. So then they started doing that, and they started recording their lines, and they would mail them back to me. And then I had a separate copy of the script just for Jordan, and I would go through the script to listen to it, and I make notes on each take, and I'd say, okay, so far take 1 is the best. Then I'd listen to take 2, and if it changed, I'd change it to a 2, and if it went to 3, I changed it to 3. And eventually, there were some that none of them were good because they mispronounced a word on every take, which happened quite a few times. Eventually, we got all the different takes together, and I had this one script that I sent to him, and the script is just tons of colored notes saying, use this take for this sentence, use this take. And then he pieced it all together, replacing my recording with all the 30 actors' recordings. And so
30 actors. That's some wrangling. That is some wrangling, people wrangling right there. My goodness.
I was just going to say, the funny thing about it was that for every step of this, it was just kind of like, wouldn't it be cool if there were some sound effects, or wouldn't it be cool if the people that weren't there were other voice actors or whatever? And it just kind of kept growing into this thing until a week or so before the moot. we were still like, wouldn't it be cool if, this little thing happened? And then,
Yeah.
yeah, we could have probably just kept going though, keep
Oh,
adding
for
Oh,
stuff.
yeah.
sure.
So,
So remind me, how far into the Council of Elrond did you finish the whole thing, or wow, of course you did. Of
Oh, yeah.
course you did. How could I doubt you?
Word number one to the last word.
Nice. I love it.
that's
The first word is next, and
Next.
the last word is Frodo.
and the
Of
length of
course.
it is, I think, an hour and 45 minutes, right?
An hour and 45 minutes. That's pretty cool. I mean, it's basically its own, wow. It's a production.
Like
That
I said,
is,
like I said to Chad, it's the length of like the first half of Fellowship or something, right? If you're watching the extended
wow.
edition.
Movie.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you think about it, that scene in the movie with the Fellowship of the Ring, where they're just of the Council of Elrond when they're doing it, that scene lasts a couple of minutes. And this
Wait,
thing, for real, if you do the real book, if you are going to make
right.
the book into an audio thing, think about how
Hmm.
long a real movie would be if you went by the method that we went, because we turned this thing is exactly like the book. The thing
Yes.
is exactly like the book. So imagine if you're going to make the whole book that way, it would be super long because this one chapter was an hour and a half, hour and three quarter, right? So
Right.
it was
That'd be
It's,
amazing.
it
105.
would be. And
Oh, it'd
you,
be great.
and Oh yeah, you took this moment in the book, which is so short. It's a very important moment, and of course, Corey Olson's taking, I don't know what he's taken a year now to analyze it because he's Corey Olson, but you've turned it into this 1 hour 45 minute production that looks so small in the text, and you've blown it up to this epic, which is really what it is. It's this epic saying, okay, we've got a problem, we've got to solve it, and here's all the backstory that goes into it.
Hmm.
So Jordan, would you like to show the kids how you put all this stuff together? Can you tell us more about the
Sure.
program? I've
Yeah.
got a couple of friends who are really interested in computer programs and coding, and so I think they'd like to see the how you put this all together.
Sounds good. You're gonna have to let me share though.
I didn't let you. That's right. That's right. Haha. I have to click buttons. See, this is exactly what happens with my kids. The kids are like, "Oh, can you actually help me out?" I'm like,
Yeah.
"Yes, buttons. Buttons are good. I have to click buttons." This is
Yeah, you,
exactly
te-
my
you
teaching
teach
process.
you teach the students how to share at a very young age, and then you don't share yourself with us.
Oh, for sure. No, no, no. Like I forget to hit the button myself. I forget to hit the. Oh, yeah. I have to actually let you share. That's right. Sorry.
Exactly. So, okay. So I'll kind of start at the beginning here. So the program is called Pro Tools.
Pro
Um,
Tools. Okay.
it's kind of the industry standard, you could say. It's what all the big studios use. But you could use any program. The audio sounds the same in all of them. How you. It's just that I'm used to using this one. That's the only difference, right?
Mm.
People have their preferences, but it doesn't actually make any difference because the audio sounds the same. So if I go through these, though, I have everything semi-organized. It started off organized, and then as we went into it more, that was actually most of what the purpose of Chad sending his version to me was
Mm.
for me to organize everything. Be like, okay, this is where this person talks, this is where that person talks. So if we go down here to the vocals, you'll see all of the characters' names on the side here. So
Aha.
Gimli, Aragorn, Bilbo, etc., and then all of their lines throughout. And these are actually they're all broken up here, you can see.
Mm-hmm.
But these were the kind of the master files that I put together after I took all of Chad's edits and kind of rendered them all together. So that's what it looks like. But that's just this is, I can't remember how many tracks now. I think it was like 30. Um,
Wow.
just for the vocals, though. So
Right.
if I hide those, and that's the easy part. Like getting the vocals and putting them in the right spot is the easy part.
Mm-hmm.
Getting the right takes out of people, that's a bit of a challenge. But once I
Sure.
have all of that, that's easy. But going into here, um, actually going into this folder, or my sound effects folder, and as you
Oh.
can see, there's a lot of those. But it'll be like, you know, these are wing flaps.
Oh, for Gwai here, the Wind Lord.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
So that happens, but it's just like, I mean, how long is that? 12 seconds worth?
Right.
And so there's little tiny moments like that throughout the whole thing. If we go back here, there's a little bit more,
Mm-hmm.
right? This one is a more complicated cue, you would call it, right? And then I have my score up at the top, which again it was kind of done in a separate session. So I initially did the score and the sound effects in a different kind of project,
Mm.
and then brought them over here. Otherwise, it would probably collapse my program if I tried to have it all running on the same one.
Probably.
Probably. So this is just like a master file of the score there. But what
Oh,
I'll do
wow.
is I can play a version of it.
Mm-hmm.
I'll play one. Actually, I'll fast forward a little bit to when Bilbo is telling his story,
Oh, yes.
if I can find it.
Yeah,
So
they'll
what?
like
That
that.
learned then,
Oh,
Phil.
I gotta find it though.
they loved Riddles in the Dark when we read The Hobbit. It was probably one of their favorite chapters, if not their favorite
Yeah,
chapter.
just wait then.
Um, oh yeah. So while you're looking for that, this is essentially the soundtrack, the score, the music, plus the voice actors, plus the sound effects, all in these separate folders that you've managed to put together
Yeah.
into one audio track, really.
Yeah, and so all of it runs together. There's ambience layers, which are just like the sound of the forest and the birds and stuff. And
Mm,
then there's individual sound effects that are like the bell ringing at the start, and like, waves crashing and stuff like that happen.
right.
And then there's the vocals, but a lot of the vocals are affected as well. Like Chad was
Mm,
saying, there's echo in some.
right.
Chad's specific lines are probably the most affected of all of the vocals that happen. So I can play that segment
Hmm.
later as well.
Yeah.
But for
We'll
now,
we'll show the kids then what his part is.
I'll and I'll lip sync the words for y'all while we're doing it.
Yes, you will.
so what really kind of brings it to life though is this program here, which is
Yes.
uh, Dolby Atmos, which is what makes it 3D basically. Okay, so if you see all these numbers on the side here,
Hmm.
those are called objects, and so I can assign a voice or a sound effect or anything to an object, and then just move it freely around in 3D around your headphones, right? So if we were at a real, like a movie theater or something like that, it would play out of all the speakers around you, but
Hmm.
it simulates that with the headphones, which is pretty cool. So when I play this sample, you'll see it in this box. You'll
Hmm.
see the balls moving around, and I've moved those around and kind of tracked the movement so that it'll do it again when I play it back. So here we go.
Very well. I will do as you bid. But I will now tell the true story, and if some here have heard me tell it otherwise,
He looked sidelong at Gloin.
I ask them to forget it, and forgive me. I only wish to claim the treasure as my very own in those days, and to be rid of the name of thief that was put on me. But perhaps I understand things a little better now. Anyway, this is what happened.
To some there, Bilbo's tale was wholly new, and they listened with amazement, while the old hobbit, actually not at all displeased, recounted his adventure with Gollum at full length. He did not omit a single riddle.
Voices, cries, wingless flutters, toothless bites, mouthless mutters, wishes. It cannot be seen, cannot be felt, cannot be heard, cannot be smelled. It lies behind stars, under hills, and under wishes. What's he got in his hands? Axes! As cold as death. Never thirsty, ever drinking. Oh no, never plenty.
No legs lay on one leg, two legs sat near on three legs,
This
four
thing
legs
he would have given also an account of his.
Yes, I could hear the voices like moving around in my headphones as the moments, like as you coming in and out of Bilbo and Gollum sharing their riddles. Yes. Oh my goodness, that's fantastic.
Pretty cool. Pretty cool stuff.
So cool.
And
And this
believe it or
is
not, that was not the actor from the movie.
no, I want to reiterate this, kids. These are volunteers, fans of Tolkien who hang out in Houston. They're part of the local Tolkien club, if you want to call it, but they're members of the Tolkien Society. These are volunteers who said, you know what, this is cool. I want to participate in this. This is not the act. These are not the actors from the movies. You don't have to be an actor to do this kind of stuff. It's so cool. That is my inner geek coming out. Excuse me, children. No, they've seen my inner geek before, and they know. Oh my goodness.
Exactly. I'm trying to find Chad's part.
Yes, Chad's part. Yay!
It's always the hardest to find because it's just a little tiny moment. Here we go.
Yes, but it's a very important one. All right, kids, remember,
Here we go.
volunteer, not actor.
But I learned then first that Gollum's ring came out of the great river, nigh to the Gladden fields. And I learned also that he had possessed it long, many lives of his small kind. The power of the ring had lengthened his years far beyond their span, but that power only the great rings wield. And if that is not proof enough, Galdor, there is the other test that I spoke of. Upon this very ring, which you have here seen held aloft, round and unadorned, the letters that Isildur reported may still be read, if one has the strength of will to set the golden thing in the fire a while. That I have done, and this I have read.
Ashnazk Durbatuluk, Ashnazk Gimbatul, Ashnazk Durbatuluk.
The change in the wizard's voice was astounding. Suddenly,
There you go.
Spooky.
I can also give them the verb conjugation and everything if they'd like.
I'll find out. I'll find out if some of them are more linguistically inclined. So far, they've been very, very story inclined, but I'll let you know. Oh my goodness, it's so cool.
Yeah.
So if I'm one of my students and I want to get involved in something like this, if this is something that I might want to pursue for the future, what are some of your recommendations, Jordan, for getting involved in things like tinkering with sound and story? What would you suggest?
Yeah, so, I mean, for things like that, you don't need anything fancy to start messing around, right? There's a free version of Pro Tools that you can get. There's free versions of different software that you can get. And the best thing to do is just to, collect some samples. There's even free sound effects libraries and stuff like that that you can download from and just start messing around and see what happens, right? That's the biggest thing, is to just mess around and see what you can do, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's basically what we did for this project, right? Like, Chad and I had a bunch of hours on the weekend before the move, just messing around and seeing, what sounds cool, what doesn't sound cool, and what works. And that's why when we sent it to the actors to listen, it was, we want to hear what you think, because, our opinion is not any better than yours. It's just different, right? So we need, and a lot of the time you need someone's outside ear,
Yeah,
to give you their thoughts, right?
absolutely.
Keep in mind that this also, a lot of these actors, these voice actors, the way they were recording their parts is they had a script in front of them and they're reading it into their phone and sending it to me. They'd never heard anyone else. So they had to speak the lines as though people are sitting right in front of them, and they would, hand it off to someone who isn't there. So then whenever Jordan pieced all this together and we let them hear it, it was the first time they had heard it too. So they were,
Right.
they only heard it a little bit before the rest of y'all did. And so they're like, oh, gosh, this is amazing.
Yeah. So essentially Gandalf would read his lines, but he would only hear Gandalf. Like, it would just be Gandalf, Gandalf, Gandalf. He wouldn't hear anybody else's participation. He wouldn't be responding to someone else speaking to him.
Yeah.
He had to just think about the fact that when he got ready to say his next line, someone had just said something to him. But really, it would be no different than you sitting in most of them did it in their closet. They closed the closet doors, and just talked into their phone. That's the way the majority of them recorded their stuff. They sent it to us, and they never had any interaction with real people at all.
Wow.
And that's the thing too, is that the microphone on your phone is good enough to get good stuff. Like, I don't know, there might have been 3 or 4 people that had a real microphone that did their recording like that. So everyone else, and Gandalf, I'm gonna say, probably didn't have a real microphone, and his is like the biggest part of the whole thing. And it sounds great. So
Wow.
it's all good.
All right. One last question for you guys. This is for both of you. How did doing this project help you understand this segment of the book much more clearly? Like, what did you get in terms of your understanding of the text out of completing this project? How did it help you see, how did it help you see Tolkien's perspective as he was writing this?
I think Jordan should go second on this because, for me, I have thought about this for a long time, because the difficulty of reading Tolkien's work is pretty popular. Everybody knows how difficult it is to read Tolkien's books. Besides The Hobbit, The Hobbit's easy. But the further you go in the Tolkien books, it gets harder and harder. And there's a whole lot of people who have read the book and still don't get it. I thought as soon as we were talking about this, because Jordan had already done this other section called Tuor and Ulmo, which you know really well. So, and I thought to myself, that explains some stuff. And I have a feeling that there would have been people out there that didn't understand that section. And when Jordan made his recording of it, it's going to clear some stuff up for some people. And so the Council of Elrond is a pivotal point in the Lord of the Rings, and there's a whole lot of stuff that goes on there. And if you're just reading it, you may not get everything that is going on. And so I thought, if you could actually put this into a realistic play, not like the movie, and then it would actually be more of an educational experience for the book. You can actually teach people who do not completely understand what was going on then. And if they can hear it in that manner, then they'll basically get it a lot easier and a lot faster. And basically, I can pass on the knowledge I have of this story through this play really fast and really thoroughly.
Yeah.
Jordan's turn.
So there's a lot of layers to this chapter in particular that, like Chad said, you kind of can miss for the first dozen times that you read it. But it's something with, like, having the layers underneath of, when Elrond is telling them about the history of whatever, it can actually happen underneath a little bit, right?
Right.
So that, combined with the sound effects of the anvils hitting and, mountains and waves and stuff like that happening, and musical cues as well, that we recognize from watching the movies, it kind of gives significance to things that you might not have thought were significant when you were just reading it through, right? So it kind of bridges a lot of things, I think. Plus, I think it gives you the sense of how long the council was, how long they must have been there discussing all this stuff. And I think that's because of the layers that we've added, right? When Elrond is talking, it's probably, a solid hour's worth of him just telling that story,
Right.
So, yeah.
Poor Sam Gamgee just sitting and crouching behind a bush, eavesdropping on all of this. I mean, this must have been hours upon hours.
Yeah.
Oh, Sam. But you get to be Sam Gamgee for a moment and listen to the other storytellers.
That was kind of a joke, but a thing that Chad and I were discussing. Wouldn't it be cool to have the Council of Elrond, but at its full length? Meaning, when Elrond tells his story, we have the
whole thing.
Yeah, and when Bilbo tells his riddles, it's the whole thing. And then that would probably end up being like 8 hours or something crazy, But it would be.
Yeah.
It would be
there's proof in the book that it started right at dawn, and they were late to lunch. And then when they all went to lunch, the hobbits stayed away, but the rest of the people went back and talked some more about what are we going to do. So the council, that meeting, it may
It was
not
a full day, if
yeah, it
not
was a full
more.
day. It was a full day for sure. And the thing that you could, one thing that you do miss on stuff like that is the way Jordan was just saying. The book says, then Bilbo told his story about how he got the ring. That's a long story.
Yes.
It even says they had to cut him off because he wouldn't. So it was a long story. And then it says Elrond explained how the rings were made. It's one sentence, but that took up
it's
that time.
exactly. It took up hours and hours of their time. And you guys bring it to life with these sound effects and with this speech. I mean, and my goodness, like I'm probably not going to put this in the kids' video, but like, let's be honest. I think Bilbo is the Corey Olsen of Middle Earth. Let's be honest, because he's going to tell the whole thing. He's going to tell the whole thing.
And they're both just as lovable as each other.
Of course, just as lovable. We love them both. Exactly. Oh my goodness. Thank you guys so much for agreeing to do this and for this fantastic project. I can't wait to share this with the kids, and I'm sure Ken, if, like I said, the OutSchool has some really strict policies on like and interacting with the kids. So if the kids have questions for you, can I reach out to you and have you either record your answers or write your answers, and I can respond back to the kids, because I think I'm hoping that they'll have lots to ask and things that they can. Oh my goodness, this is so great.
Even if it's not the kids, even if the adults want to know more.
Oh sure. Oh yeah, I'm sure there are going to be plenty of adults like peeking over the kids' shoulders, like, ooh, this is really cool. Like